The room held its breath the moment she moved. 30 men circled like wolves, their contempt thick enough to taste, but Celeste Moretti didn't hesitate. She crossed the marble floor in her stained apron, positioned herself between them and the trembling woman they'd cornered, and spoke 3 words that shattered the hierarchy of power. "She's done nothing." Rocco DeMarco, the man they all feared, stood motionless in the shadows, ink-black tattoo visible across his knuckles as his hand tightened into a fist. Their eyes met. Everything changed. Sometimes one moment of courage rewrites 2 lives forever. Please like, share and subscribe. Creator transparency. This video utilizes AI-enhanced tools for visuals, scripting, or editing to elevate the production quality. While these tools assist in the process, the creative vision, final assembly and editorial direction remain entirely human-led. I am committed to using technology responsibly to share my unique perspective with you. 3 hours earlier, Celeste arrived at the DeMarco estate before dawn, when the city still belonged to shadows and delivery trucks. She carried linens through the service entrance, her worn shoes silent against imported stone. The other staff barely acknowledged her. She preferred it that way. This wasn't her world. Never would be. The estate sprawled across 20 acres of Chicago's most exclusive territory, all iron gates and old money, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Celeste had worked dozens of events here over the past year. She knew which hallways to avoid, which family members tipped, and which conversations to unhear. She also knew Rocco DeMarco by sight, though they'd never spoken. Everyone knew Rocco. He moved through rooms like winter itself, cold, inevitable, impossible to ignore. Even in a tailored suit, violence lived just beneath his surface. The tattoo across his knuckles spelled something in Italian she'd never been close enough to read. His mother had similar ink, delicate script along her collarbone that disappeared beneath silk blouses. Leggy. Blood. Permanence. Celeste understood that kind of marking even if her scars were the invisible kind. She arranged champagne flutes in the ballroom as morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows. The event was tonight, some business merger masquerading as celebration. She'd serve drinks, collect empty plates, and disappear before the real festivities began. Simple. Professional. Forgettable. That was the plan. Afternoon. Isabella DeMarco arrived at noon, and the entire staff shifted into higher alertness. Rocco's mother carried herself like displaced royalty, 70 years old with the posture of a woman who'd never apologized for existing. She wore cream linen and gold jewelry that whispered rather than shouted. The tattoo along her collarbone was barely visible today, hidden by her collar. But Celeste noticed everything. Isabella moved through the kitchen inspecting preparations, her presence commanding without cruelty. She paused near Celeste's station, eyes sharp. "You're new." "A year now, Mrs. DeMarco." "Then you're not new." Isabella's mouth curved slightly. "You're invisible." "That's different." Celeste said nothing. Agreeing felt dangerous. "I prefer staff who understand discretion." Isabella adjusted a flower arrangement with practiced efficiency. "Tonight will require it." She moved on, leaving behind the faint scent of jasmine and something else. Something like loneliness wrapped in silk. Celeste returned to her work, ignoring the strange tightness in her chest. Evening. The guests arrived in waves of expensive fabric and inherited arrogance. Celeste recognized patterns after years in service. The politicians who drank too much, the businessmen who spoke in coded threats, the women who smiled with their mouths but never their eyes. This crowd was different, though. Sharper. More dangerous. These people didn't just have power. They were power. She refilled glasses and cleared plates, becoming part of the wallpaper. Servers were trained to be present but invisible, noticed only when needed. She'd perfected the balance. Then Rocco entered and the room's entire energy shifted. He wore black, suit, shirt, everything dark except the white gold watch on his wrist and the ink permanently marking his skin. The tattoo across his knuckles caught light as he accepted a drink from another server. More ink traced up his forearm beneath the rolled sleeve, intricate patterns she couldn't decipher from this distance. Men straightened. Women watched. Rocco noticed none of it. His attention fixed on his mother across the room, a silent check-in that lasted 2 seconds before he moved toward a cluster of older men near the windows. Business. Always business. Celeste told herself to look away. He didn't. There was something magnetic about people who didn't perform, who simply existed with such absolute certainty that the world rearranged itself around them. Rocco DeMarco was carved from that specific kind of confidence, and she wanted nothing to do with it. Men like him consumed everything they touched. It started small. A comment from one of the guests, Carlo Benedetti, some cousin or associate Celeste had served before. He'd cornered Isabella near the dessert table, his voice carrying just enough to make nearby conversations pause. "Surprised you showed your face tonight, Isabella." After the accounts. Isabella's expression didn't change. "I don't know what you're referring to." "No." Carlo smiled, sharp and ugly. "The missing funds from the Rossi deal. Your signature. Your accounts." Lies. Celeste knew lies when she heard them. So did everyone in that room. But perception was everything in this world, and Carlo had an audience. 3 other men drifted closer, vultures circling something wounded. Their positioning was deliberate, aggressive. They surrounded Isabella with casual cruelty, blocking her exit. "Maybe it's time," Carlo continued, voice dropping to mock sympathy, "for you to step back. Let the next generation handle business. There are more mistakes happen." A power play. Public humiliation designed to fracture her authority. Isabella stood frozen, pride keeping her spine straight even as something flickered in her eyes. Not fear. Rage. The dangerous kind that came from knowing you were being set up and having no clean way out. Celeste's hands tightened on her serving tray. Across the room, Rocco stood motionless near the windows. His jaw was locked, the muscle there twitching. The tattoo across his knuckles was stark against his clenched fist, visible even from 15 feet away. His entire body radiated leashed violence. But he didn't move. Couldn't move. Attacking Carlo in front of these witnesses would confirm weakness, suggest his mother needed protection, validate every insult being leveled at her competence. In their world, perception meant survival. So Rocco stood there watching his mother be torn apart, doing absolutely nothing. The room held its breath. And Celeste made a choice that would destroy every careful boundary she'd built. The intervention. She moved before thought caught up with instinct. The marble floor was cold beneath her worn shoes as she crossed the space between invisibility and consequence. 30 men, give or take, stood witness as she positioned herself directly between Carlo and Isabella, her serving tray steady despite the way her pulse hammered. "She's done nothing." 3 words. Quiet but clear. The room went absolutely silent. Carlo blinked at her like she was a hallucination. "Excuse me." "The Rossi accounts." Celeste kept her voice level, professional. Mrs. DeMarco's signature was on the initial contracts, but the fund transfers went through secondary approval. "I processed the paperwork myself last month." "Why?" "But a useful one." She had no idea how the Rossi deal worked. She just knew Isabella DeMarco hadn't stolen anything, and Carlo Benedetti was a liar with an agenda. "You." Carlo's face reddened. "You're a fucking waitress." "I handle estate documentation between events." Another lie, smooth as silk. The transfers were flagged during audit review. Mrs. DeMarco's involvement was limited to preliminary agreements. If there's missing funds, they disappeared after her purview ended. Celeste met his stare with the kind of calm that came from having nothing left to lose. She'd been small and powerless her entire life. She knew how to survive men like Carlo. Stand quiet. Tell strategic truths. Make yourself not worth the effort to destroy. Isabella's hand touched her shoulder, brief, steadying. "That's enough, Celeste." Isabella's voice carried centuries of bred authority. "Gentlemen, if there are concerns about accounts, we can review documentation in proper channels. This is hardly the venue." The power shifted. Carlo had lost his momentum. Attacking a server only made him look weaker. He stepped back, jaw tight, and the other men dispersed with practiced casualness. Crisis averted. Isabella squeezed Celeste's shoulder once before moving away, head high, battle won through sheer force of will and one waitress's reckless intervention. The room resumed breathing. And Celeste felt eyes burning into her from across the ballroom. First collision. He didn't look. Couldn't. Her hands trembled as she gathered empty glasses, muscle memory keeping her functional while her brain screamed about consequences. She'd just involved herself in Mafia politics. She'd lied to powerful men. She'd made herself visible. Stupid. So incredibly stupid. You. The voice came from directly behind her. Low, controlled, wrapped in expensive cologne and something darker. Celeste turned. Rocco DeMarco stood 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the exact lines of ink tracing up from his knuckles. Intricate patterns that looked like they hurt, Roman numerals woven through symbols she didn't recognize. His shirt sleeve was rolled to his elbow, revealing more tattoos. A family crest, Italian script, dates that probably marked deaths rather than births. His eyes were darker than she'd expected. Not cruel exactly. Consuming. What's your name? Celeste Moretti, Mr. DeMarco. How long have you worked here? 1.5 years. And you process estate documentation? Shit. Sometimes. Between events. Filing mostly. His stare didn't waver. He knew she was lying. Of course he knew. But instead of calling her out, Rocco just nodded slowly, something unreadable flickering across his expression. You didn't need to do that. She didn't deserve that. No, he agreed quietly. She didn't. Silence stretched between them, heavy with things neither could say. The party continued around them. Laughter, clinking glasses, negotiations disguised as small talk. But in their small pocket of space, everything else faded. Rocco's jaw tightened. His hand flexed, tattoos shifting with the movement. Carlo will remember you now. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. I know. That was stupid. I know that too. His mouth curved barely. Not quite a smile. Something sharper. Brave though. Then he walked away, disappearing into the crowd with the same fluid certainty he'd arrived with, leaving Celeste standing there with her heart racing and the distinct feeling that she'd just stepped off a cliff. Late night. The event ended near midnight. Celeste helped with cleanup, moving through familiar routines while her mind replayed every second of that confrontation. Carlo will remember you now. She knew what that meant. Men like Carlo held grudges. They punished defiance. But when she finally left through the service entrance, exhausted and wired, a black car idled near the staff parking area. The back window rolled down. Isabella DeMarco looked out at her, elegant even at this late hour. Get in. Celeste hesitated. Mrs. DeMarco, It's not a request. She got in. The interior smelled like leather and jasmine. Isabella sat perfectly composed, hands folded in her lap, that delicate tattoo barely visible above her collar. What you did tonight, Isabella said carefully, was either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. Probably. Isabella's expression softened microscopically. Why? Because they were wrong. That's not enough reason to make yourself a target. Celeste met her eyes. It was for me. Something passed between them, recognition maybe. Understanding that came from shared experience rather than words. Isabella reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. You'll find this month's wages plus a severance bonus. Generous enough to get you started somewhere else. Celeste's stomach dropped. You're firing me? I'm protecting you. Isabella's voice was firm. Carlo won't forget tonight. Neither will his associates. Working here is no longer safe. I need this job. You need to be alive more. The words hung between them, brutal and true. Celeste took the envelope with shaking hands. 16 months of work. Ended because she'd done the right thing. The math was simple. The right thing didn't pay rent. There's a contact number inside, Isabella continued. A friend who runs a restaurant downtown. She'll hire you, no questions asked. It's good work. Honest. I don't want charity. It's not charity. It's survival. Isabella's hand covered hers, brief and warm. You defended me when my own son couldn't. That means something. But it also means you can't stay here. The car door opened from outside. Celeste climbed out into cold night air, envelope clutched tight, watching as the car pulled away with Isabella's silhouette barely visible through tinted glass. Gone. Just like that. 2 weeks later. The restaurant was called Lucia's, tucked between a bookstore and a dry cleaner in a neighborhood that had seen better decades. The owner, Maria Costello, hired Celeste immediately, exactly as Isabella had promised. The work was harder, the tips smaller, but it was safe. Celeste told herself that mattered more. She served lunch specials and dinner crowds, learned the regulars' names, kept her head down. Days blurred together in the comforting monotony of routine. Wake, work, sleep, Repeat. She didn't think about the DeMarco estate. She definitely didn't think about Rocco. Except she did. Constantly. Late at night, lying in her cramped apartment, she replayed that moment. His eyes on hers, the controlled danger in his voice, the way he'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Carlo will remember you now. So would Rocco apparently. Because 3 weeks after Isabella fired her, he walked into Lucia's during the dinner rush. The door. Celeste was clearing table 6 when the bell chimed. She glanced up out of habit and forgot how to breathe. Rocco DeMarco stood in the entrance, dark coat over darker clothes, looking like he'd wandered in from a different dimension entirely. He was too expensive for this neighborhood, too dangerous for this small family restaurant with its checkered tablecloths and outdated decor. His eyes found her immediately. Not coincidence. Purpose. Maria rushed over, already nervous. Sir, we're quite full, but I'm meeting someone. Rocco's gaze never left Celeste. Her. The restaurant went quiet. Celeste set down the plates she'd been holding and walked over, heart hammering. Mr. DeMarco. We need to talk. I'm working. Take a break. It wasn't a request. Maria practically shoved her toward the back, whispering urgently, whatever he wants, say yes. That's Rocco DeMarco. You don't say no to that family. So Celeste led him to the small office behind the kitchen, cramped and cluttered with invoices and supplier catalogs. Rocco filled the space immediately, too large for the room, too present. He closed the door. The click of the lock was very loud. You disappeared, he said quietly. Your mother fired me. To protect you. I know. Rocco moved closer and Celeste fought the urge to back away. He stopped just inside her personal space, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the fine details of the tattoos wrapping around his forearms beneath his rolled sleeves. Carlo's been asking questions, Rocco said. About you. Your address. Your new job. Fear spiked cold through her chest. And I made sure he didn't find answers. His jaw tightened. But he's persistent. This isn't over. Then why are you here? Because you put yourself at risk for my mother. Something fierce flickered in his eyes. That means you're my responsibility now. I don't need. Yes, you do. He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Carlo doesn't forgive disrespect. Neither do his associates. You embarrassed him publicly. Men like him make examples of people like you. People like me? People who can't fight back. The words stung because they were true. Celeste lifted her chin anyway. So what? You're here to play bodyguard. I'm here to make sure you survive this. Why do you care? The question hung between them, sharp and necessary. Rocco's hand lifted, slow, deliberate, and his knuckles brushed her cheek. The touch was brief, almost gentle, and the tattoo across his hand was stark against her skin. Because, he said quietly, you're the first person in 10 years who did something for my family without expecting anything in return. And because when I close my eyes, all I see is you walking into a room full of dangerous men to defend someone you barely knew. His thumb traced her jaw. That kind of courage is rare. I don't let rare things get destroyed. Celeste's breath caught. This close she could see everything. The faint scar above his eyebrow, the exhaustion he hid behind control, the weight of legacy pressing down on shoulders that refused to bend. He was beautiful and terrifying and completely off limits. I can't be your responsibility, she whispered. Too late. Then he stepped back, breaking the moment with practiced efficiency. There's a car outside. It'll take you home tonight. Every night until this is resolved. I don't need. It's not optional, Celeste. Her name in his mouth felt like possession. Rocco moved to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. The tattoos wrapped around his wrist seemed to pulse in the dim light. You made yourself matter, he said without turning around. Now you have to live with the consequences. He left. And Celeste stood in that cramped office, touching the place on her jaw where his hand had been, wondering how her life had spiraled so far beyond her control. The car came every night. Black sedan, tinted windows, driver who never spoke. Celeste protested for 3 days before accepting the inevitable. Rocco DeMarco didn't make empty gestures. If he said she needed protection, arguing was pointless. So she let them drive her home. Let them wait outside her building. Let them become part of her new, strange reality. She didn't see Rocco again, but she felt him everywhere. The regulars at Lucia's started tipping better. A drunk customer who got aggressive was removed before Maria even called for help. The landlord who'd been threatening eviction suddenly approved a payment plan. Invisible protection. Quiet fixes. Rocco's influence woven through her life like those tattoos wrapped around his skin. Permanent, undeniable, impossible to escape. Celeste told herself to be grateful. Instead she felt trapped. 1 month later. She was closing the restaurant when the door chimed. Celeste looked up from wiping tables expecting a late customer. Rocco stood in the doorway, snowflakes melting on his dark coat. "We're closed," she said automatically. "I know." He moved inside and she noticed the exhaustion in his expression. Deeper than before, carved into features too young to carry so much weight. "When's the last time you slept?" The question escaped before she could stop it. "When's the last time you stopped being stubborn about accepting help?" That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Rocco pulled out a chair at table 3 and sat, which felt surreal. Mafia bosses didn't sit in empty restaurants at midnight looking like they might shatter. Celeste abandoned her cleaning and joined him. Silence settled between them, less hostile than before. Almost comfortable. "Carlo's backing off," Rocco said finally. "For now." "Because you made him?" "Because I reminded him what happens when he forgets his place." The words were casual. The implication wasn't. Celeste studied his face. The hard lines, the controlled violence, the loneliness he wore like armor. "Does it ever get exhausting?" she asked quietly. "Being feared all the time?" Something flickered in his eyes. "Surprise maybe. Every day." "Then why do it?" "Because if I stop, people I care about get hurt." His jaw tightened. "That's not acceptable. So you carry everything alone." "That's the job. That's a prison." Rocco's gaze sharpened on her, intense enough to make breathing difficult. "You see too much," he said. "You hide too much." His mouth curved, barely but real. They sat there in the empty restaurant, snow falling outside, two people from completely different worlds recognizing something familiar in each other's carefully constructed walls. "My mother asks about you," Rocco said eventually. "Every week." "How is she?" "Stronger for what you did." Carlo's challenge failed. "She came out more powerful than before." "Good. She wants to thank you properly." "Dinner." "At the estate." Celeste shook her head. "That's not necessary." "She's not asking. She's informing." Rocco leaned forward slightly. "Sunday. 7 o'clock. A car will pick you up." "I work Sundays." "Not this Sunday." The certainty in his voice made arguing pointless. Celeste sighed. "Does anyone ever say no to your family?" "Not twice." His eyes held hers and something shifted, subtle but undeniable. The air between them felt charged, dangerous, like touching a live wire. Rocco stood abruptly, breaking the tension. "Sunday," he repeated. "Don't make me come collect you personally." "Would you?" He paused at the door, snowflakes drifting in from outside. "Yes." One word. Absolute truth. Then he was gone, leaving Celeste alone with her racing heart and the growing certainty that she was falling toward something she couldn't survive. Sunday. The car arrived at 6:30. Celeste wore her only decent dress, simple black, nothing special, and felt absurdly underdressed the moment they pulled through the estate gates. The DeMarco mansion looked different at night. Softer. Golden light spilled from windows, making the whole place seem almost welcoming. Almost. Isabella met her at the door, elegant in dove gray silk. "Celeste. Thank you for coming. You didn't really give me a choice." Isabella's smile was pure warmth. "No, I didn't. Come." Dinner was intimate, just the three of them at a table built for 20. Rocco sat across from Celeste, silent and watchful, while Isabella orchestrated conversation with the skill of someone used to managing difficult personalities. The food was excellent. The wine was better. And Celeste couldn't stop noticing the way Rocco's eyes tracked her every movement. The lift of her glass, the sweep of her hair over her shoulder, the small smile when Isabella told a story about Rocco's childhood. Hungry. He barely touched his own meal. After dinner, Isabella excused herself with transparent subtlety, leaving them alone in the vast dining room. Rocco stood. "Walk with me." "Is that a request or an order?" Does it matter? No, it didn't. She followed him through the house, past artwork worth more than her entire life, through hallways lined with family portraits, out onto a terrace overlooking manicured gardens blanketed in snow. The cold hit immediately. Celeste wrapped her arms around herself. Rocco shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over her shoulders without asking. The fabric held his warmth, his scent. His tattoos were visible now, script running up his forearms, disappearing under rolled shirt sleeves. "You're staring," he said quietly. "You're covered in permanent decisions. Each one means something." "Like what?" He held out his hand, palm up, showing her the intricate ink across his knuckles. "Family names. Every person I'm responsible for." There were at least a dozen names, tiny script woven through larger patterns. "Must get crowded," Celeste murmured. "Always. Do I get added now? Since I'm your responsibility?" The question came out more bitter than intended. Rocco's fingers closed slowly, hiding the names. "You were never just a responsibility. Then what am I?" He looked at her. Really looked, the kind of stare that stripped away pretense and saw straight through to the truth underneath. "A complication. That's romantic. The dangerous kind," he continued, voice dropping. "The kind that makes me forget why lines exist." Celeste's breath caught. "What lines?" "The ones between who I am and who I want to be. Between duty and—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "And what?" Rocco stepped closer, crowding her against the terrace railing. Snow fell around them, silent and soft, while something infinitely more dangerous sparked in the air between their bodies. "You don't belong in this world, Celeste. I know. People like me destroy people like you. I know that too. Then why are you still here?" She met his eyes, refusing to look away even as her pulse hammered. "Because you haven't destroyed me yet." His control cracked, just for a second, just enough to show the want beneath. Then he kissed her. Not gentle. Not soft. His mouth claimed hers with the same absolute certainty he brought to everything else, one hand tangling in her hair, the other gripping her waist like he was afraid she'd disappear. The kiss tasted like expensive wine and terrible decisions. Celeste kissed him back anyway. Because she'd been falling for weeks and hitting the ground was inevitable, and at least this way it felt like flying first. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Rocco pressed his forehead to hers. "This is a mistake," he whispered. "I know. I can't promise you safety. I never asked for that. You should." His grip tightened. "You should run from me as fast as possible." "But I won't." "No," he agreed roughly. "You won't." They stood there on the terrace, tangled together, while snow covered the world in white and every rational thought Celeste had ever possessed burned to ash. The aftermath. Rocco drove her home himself that night. The car ride was silent, heavy with everything unsaid. When they pulled up outside her building, he killed the engine but didn't move to let her out. "This changes things," he said finally. "I know. Carlo won't be the only threat now. Others will see you as leverage." "Because of one kiss? Because of the way I look at you?" Rocco turned to face her fully. "I'm not good at hiding what I want, Celeste. And what I want makes you a target." Fear flickered through her chest. "Then maybe we should." "No." The word was flat, absolute. "We're past that." "Are we?" "The moment you defended my mother, you became mine to protect. The moment I kissed you—" He stopped, something fierce crossing his expression. "There's no going back now." The possessiveness should have terrified her. Instead it felt like inevitability. Celeste reached for the door handle. "I should go." "Celeste." She paused. "I meant what I said. This is dangerous. Everything about you is dangerous, Rocco. And you're still here." "Still here," she confirmed softly. His hand caught hers, thumb brushing over her knuckles, gentle despite the violence she knew he was capable of. "Then I'll keep you safe," he said. "No matter what it costs." She believed him. That was the most dangerous thing of all. 2 weeks later. Rocco showed up at Lucia's 3 times that week. Never during rush hours. Always near closing. He'd sit at the same table, order coffee he didn't drink, and watch her work with an intensity that made breathing difficult. The other servers noticed. Maria definitely noticed. "That man is obsessed with you," Maria whispered during a lull. "And not in a healthy way." "I know." "Are you sleeping with him?" "No." Not yet, something whispered in the back of her mind. But the restraint was killing both of them. Every conversation felt like foreplay. Every accidental touch burned. The tension built with each passing day until Celeste felt like she might combust from wanting something she knew would destroy her. Friday night, Rocco stayed until well past midnight. They were alone. Maria had left, the last customer had gone, and Celeste was supposed to be closing up. Instead, she sat across from Rocco at table 3, both of them pretending this was normal. "You should go home," she said. "Should I? It's late." "I don't care." "Rocco, do you know what I thought about today?" He leaned forward, eyes dark and focused entirely on her. "How your hair falls when you're concentrating. The exact sound of your laugh. The way you bite your lip when you're nervous." Celeste's breath caught. "You need to stop." "Why?" "Because this can't work." "Why not?" "Because you and I'm." "What?" "Not good enough." His voice turned sharp. "That's what you think? That's what everyone will think." "I don't care what anyone thinks." Rocco stood, moving around the table with predatory grace. "I care that you're here. That you're real. That you looked at me like I'm more than what everyone else sees." He stopped in front of her chair, close enough to touch. "You're the first good thing in my life in years, Celeste. I'm not letting that go because of what people might say. Your world will eat me alive. Then I'll burn it down first." The words hung between them, dark promise wrapped in devotion. Celeste stood slowly, bringing them inches apart. "You don't mean that." "I've never meant anything more." His hand cupped her face. Rough palm, careful touch, ink-marked knuckles gentle against her skin. "Tell me to leave," he whispered. "Tell me this is a mistake and I'll walk out that door right now." Celeste knew she should. Every rational part of her brain screamed to push him away. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. His control shattered completely. Rocco lifted her onto the table, mouth never leaving hers, hands everywhere at once. The kiss was desperate, consuming, months of restraint burning away in seconds. Celeste's fingers found his hair, his shoulders, the strong line of his jaw. She felt his heart hammering against her chest, matched the rhythm of her own pulse. This was madness. This was inevitable. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, Rocco's eyes were almost black with want. "Come home with me," he said roughly. "Rocco. Please." The vulnerability in that single word undid her. "Okay." His apartment. She expected the estate. Instead, Rocco drove to a penthouse downtown, all glass and steel and modern edges that felt nothing like him. "I don't live at the mansion," he explained, keying in the security code. "Too many eyes." The apartment was sparse. Expensive but impersonal, like a hotel room someone had lived in for years without ever making it home. Except for one wall. Photographs covered it. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. His family. His mother. People Celeste didn't recognize but who shared the same fierce eyes, same quiet intensity. "This is your real home," she said softly. Rocco nodded, something raw crossing his expression. They stood in the dark living room, city lights glowing through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the weight of what they were about to do settled between them. "We don't have to," Rocco started. Celeste kissed him. Not desperate this time. Slow. Deliberate. A choice made with full awareness of the consequences. He responded in kind, hands gentle despite the hunger she could feel thrumming through him. They moved through the apartment in a blur, hallway, bedroom, sheets that smelled like him. What happened next was theirs alone. Sacred. Private. The fade to black. Morning after. Celeste woke to sunlight and an empty bed. Panic spiked before she heard sounds from the kitchen. Running water, the clink of dishes. She found one of Rocco's shirts and pulled it on, the fabric swallowing her frame. He stood at the stove, shirtless, tattoos on full display in morning light. The ink covered more of him than she'd realized. His back was a canvas of Italian script and religious imagery, saints and sinners woven together in permanent grayscale. He turned, saw her, and went absolutely still. "You're wearing my shirt. Is that okay?" "It's..." He stopped, something fierce and possessive flooding his expression. "Yeah. It's okay." They ate breakfast in comfortable silence. Eggs and coffee, nothing fancy, but it felt more intimate than last night somehow. Domestic. Terrifying. "I have meetings all day," Rocco said finally. "But tonight." His phone buzzed. Then again. Then continuously. He checked the screen and his entire body went rigid. What's wrong? Carlo's dead. Rocco's voice was flat. They found him this morning. Professional hit. Celeste's blood ran cold. Did you? No. He looked at her and she saw the truth there. But someone did. And they wanted to look like my family was responsible. What does that mean? Rocco stood, already moving toward the bedroom. It means war. It means every alliance we have is about to fracture. It means... He stopped, turning back to her with something like anguish in his eyes. It means I need to get you somewhere safe. Now. Rocco. This isn't a discussion, Celeste. If Carlo's people think we killed him, they'll come after everyone connected to my family. That includes you. Because I defended your mother. Because you're mine. The words were raw, unfiltered. And that, Rocco continued, voice dropping, makes you the most valuable target they have. The safe house. The car moved through Chicago like a shadow, avoiding main streets, taking turns that felt random but weren't. Celeste sat in the back seat, still wearing Rocco's shirt under her hastily pulled-on dress, watching the city blur past tinted windows. Rocco sat beside her, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. His free hand gripped hers with bruising intensity, the only sign of the fear he refused to show on his face. The tattoos across his knuckles were stark against her pale skin. When he finally ended the call, the silence felt heavy enough to crush. Where are we going? Celeste asked. Safe house. North side. Only 3 people know about it. For how long? Until I fix this. She wanted to ask how he planned to fix a murder he didn't commit. But the set of his jaw told her he'd already decided on a course of action. Probably something violent, definitely something dangerous. They pulled up to a brownstone tucked between identical buildings, all of them anonymous and forgettable. Perfect camouflage. Inside the space was clean but sparse. Reinforced windows. Multiple exits. Security cameras covering every angle. A gilded cage. Rocco moved through the rooms, checking locks, testing sightlines. Professional. Thorough. When he returned to the living room, Celeste was standing by the window, arms wrapped around herself. How long have you been planning for something like this? She asked quietly. Since the day I took over the family. You live waiting for war. I live preventing it. Sometimes I fail. He came up behind her, close but not touching. She could feel the heat of him, the barely controlled tension. I'm sorry, Rocco said roughly. You didn't ask for any of this. I stepped into that room. I made a choice. You shouldn't have had to. Celeste turned to face him. Do you regret it? That I did. His hand came up, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. I regret that it put you in danger. I don't regret knowing you exist. The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. I need to go, Rocco continued. Handle the fallout. But there will be 2 men outside, Marco and Dante. Their family, blood family. They'll die before they let anyone touch you. Comforting. His mouth curved without humor. It's the truth. He kissed her then, slow, thorough, like he was memorizing the taste of her mouth. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark with something that looked like grief. Don't leave this house, Celeste. No matter what. I won't. Promise me. I promise. He left. And Celeste stood in that empty safe house, surrounded by locks and cameras and the ghost of his touch, wondering how her life had become something out of a crime film. 3 days later. Time moved strangely in isolation. Celeste cleaned the already clean apartment. Read books she found on dusty shelves. Watched the street through reinforced windows. Marco and Dante changed shifts every 12 hours. Silent sentinels who nodded politely but never engaged in conversation. Rocco called twice a day, morning and night, always brief. Are you safe? Yes. Do you need anything? Just you. Silence. Heavy breathing. Soon, he'd promise. This will be over soon. But soon stretched into days and Celeste felt herself fraying at the edges. On the 4th night Isabella came. The older woman arrived near midnight, elegant despite the hour, carrying bags of food and what looked like half a boutique's worth of clothing. You can't live in the same dress for a week, Isabella said by way of greeting. Celeste wanted to be annoyed. Instead she felt absurdly grateful. They ate together, Real Italian food, the kind that tasted like someone's grandmother had poured love into every ingredient. Isabella talked about nothing important, filling the silence with stories about Chicago's history, the DeMarco family's legitimate businesses, anything except the war brewing outside these walls. Finally, over coffee, Isabella's facade cracked slightly. "He's losing his mind," she said quietly. "My son. This situation with Carlo's death, it's bad. The accusations, the posturing. But what's really destroying him is you being locked away like this. He's the one who put me here. To keep you alive." Isabella's eyes were fierce. "Do you understand what you mean to him? What you represent? A complication. Hope." Isabella leaned forward. "Rocco has spent 15 years carrying the weight of our family. Every decision, every sacrifice, every drop of blood, it's all been on his shoulders. He's forgotten how to want anything for himself." She paused, something raw flickering across her elegant features. "Then you walked into a room full of dangerous men to defend me. You didn't know him. Didn't owe us anything. You just saw something wrong and stepped forward anyway. Anyone would have." "No," Isabella cut her off sharply. "They wouldn't. Most people see power and look away. You looked straight at it and said no." Silence settled between them. "He loves you," Isabella said finally. "Maybe he hasn't said it yet. Maybe he's too afraid of what it means. But I've known my son his entire life, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Celeste's throat tightened. "This won't work. Our worlds. We're never as separate as you think." Isabella smiled sadly. "My family came from nothing. My husband's family built their empire on the backs of people who looked exactly like you. Status is just a story we tell ourselves to feel superior." She stood, gathering her things with practiced grace. "Rocco will fix this. He always does. And when he comes for you, because he will come for you, don't push him away because you think you're not enough. You're exactly what he needs." Isabella left the same way she'd arrived. Quietly, efficiently, leaving behind the scent of jasmine and truth Celeste wasn't ready to accept. 1 week in. The call came at 2 in the morning. Celeste jerked awake to her phone buzzing insistently. Rocco's name glowed on the screen. "Hello. Are you awake?" His voice was rough, exhausted. "I am now. Sorry. He stopped. Brief. I needed to hear your voice." Celeste sat up, heart clenching at the vulnerability in his tone. "What happened?" "Nothing. Everything. I've been in meetings for 16 hours straight, navigating alliances that want to fracture, dealing with accusations I can't disprove." He laughed bitterly. "And all I can think about is you in that safe house, hating me for locking you away." "I don't hate you. You should. Probably." She pulled the blanket closer. "But I don't." Silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. "Tell me something," Rocco said finally. "Something that has nothing to do with this mess." "Like what?" "Anything. Your favorite color. What you wanted to be as a kid. Why you became a waitress." His voice softened. "I want to know you, Celeste. Not just the brave woman who stepped in front of my mother. You." So she told him. About growing up in 3 different foster homes. About the caseworker who bought her books when money was tight. About wanting to be a teacher before student loans became impossible. About choosing service work because it let her observe people, understand them, stay invisible while seeing everything. Rocco listened without interrupting, and she could hear him breathing on the other end. Steady, present, completely focused on her words. "Your turn," Celeste said when she finished. "Tell me something real." "Like what?" "Why tattoos? What do they mean?" Pause. "Then, each one marks a choice I can't take back. The names on my knuckles. Family I'm sworn to protect. The dates on my ribs. People I've lost. The scripture on my back. Promises I made to my father before he died." "What promises?" "To hold the family together. To never let weakness show. To carry the legacy forward no matter what it costs." His voice went rough. "To be alone at the top because that's what it takes to keep everyone else safe." "That sounds like a terrible promise." "It was. But I made it anyway." Celeste's chest ached. "Your father was wrong. Maybe. But I'm still bound by it. Even now. Even now." Silence. Then so quiet she almost missed it. "Except with you." With you I forget how to be alone. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and true. Rocco. I should let you sleep. I'm not tired. Liar. But his voice held warmth. Close your eyes, Celeste. I'll stay on the line until you do. So she lay there in the dark, phone pressed to her ear, listening to him breathe while sleep pulled her under. Safe. Even locked in a safe house, even with war brewing outside, Rocco's presence, distant and distorted through phone static, made her feel safe. That was the most dangerous thing of all. The break. 10 days into isolation, Celeste broke her promise. Not intentionally. Not recklessly. But the walls were closing in and the street below kept calling, and she just needed air that didn't taste like confinement. Marco was on duty. She told him she'd be on the back patio, still technically inside the property line, still within camera view. He didn't look happy, but he nodded. The patio was small, enclosed by high brick walls, open to the sky. Chicago's night air was cold and sharp and absolutely perfect. Celeste breathed deep, feeling something tight in her chest finally loosen. She didn't hear the footsteps until too late. A hand clamped over her mouth. An arm locked around her waist. Don't scream. The voice was unfamiliar. Male, calm, professional. Celeste's training from self-defense classes kicked in. She stomped down hard, connected with his instep, drove her elbow back into his ribs. He grunted but didn't let go. Stop fighting. I'm not here to hurt you. Then let go. Can't do that. They struggled. Brief, violent, utterly silent. He was stronger, trained, and clearly under orders to take her alive because he could have hurt her badly and didn't. That thought terrified her more than anything else. Then Marco appeared in the doorway, gun drawn. Release her. Now. The man holding Celeste went absolutely still. You shoot me, she gets hurt. You hurt her, you die screaming. Fair. The man's grip loosened slightly. Message for DeMarco. Tell him the Rossi family wants a meeting. Tell him we'll return his pet when terms are set. Pet. The word ignited rage Celeste didn't know she possessed. She drove her head back, connected with his nose. Felt bone crunch. His grip loosened enough for her to wrench free and drop to the ground. Marco fired twice. The man went down, blood blooming across his shoulder. Not dead. Deliberately not dead. Within seconds, Dante was there, securing the wounded man with practiced efficiency. Marco pulled Celeste inside, checking her for injuries with hands that shook slightly. Are you hurt? No. I'm fine. She wasn't fine. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in short gasps. The reality of what almost happened crashed over her in waves. Marco's phone rang. He answered, spoke rapidly in Italian, then held it out to Celeste. He wants to talk to you. She knew who he was before she took the phone. Celeste. Rocco's voice was absolutely devoid of emotion. Flat. Cold. Terrifying in its control. Are you hurt? No. Did he touch you? Rocco. Did he touch you? He grabbed me. I got free. Marco shot him. Silence. Long enough that she thought the call had dropped. Then, I'm coming to you. Don't move. Don't go outside. Don't even breathe wrong. I'm sorry. We'll discuss it when I get there. The line went dead. Celeste handed the phone back to Marco, whose expression was carefully neutral. How bad? She asked quietly. Bad enough. He gestured to the couch. Sit. Don't touch anything. He'll want to see the scene exactly as it is. So she sat. And waited. And tried very hard not to think about the cold rage in Rocco's voice. Aftermath. Rocco arrived 20 minutes later with 4 additional men and an energy that made the entire safe house feel smaller. He moved through the space like a force of nature, checking the patio, examining the wounded man Dante had secured in the basement, speaking in rapid Italian to his people. He didn't look at Celeste once. Not until everyone else had been dismissed and they were alone. Then he turned and the expression on his face made her breath catch. Not anger. Worse. Fear. Raw, unfiltered terror barely contained beneath his usual control. You promised, he said quietly. I stayed on the property. You went outside. The patio is 30 feet from the door. Outside. The walls. The protection. His voice cracked slightly. You promised me, Celeste. I needed air. You needed. He stopped, hands curling into fists, tattoos stark against white knuckles. Do you understand what almost happened? The Rossi family has been looking for leverage for 2 weeks. You handed it to them. I didn't hand them anything. I fought back. You shouldn't have been in a position to fight. His control finally shattered. You should have been safe. Practiced. And instead you're. He couldn't finish. Celeste stood slowly, watching him fracture in real time. Rocco. I can't lose you. The words came out broken. I can't. Do you understand that? This thing between us, it's not rational, it's not safe, it's probably going to destroy us both. But you're mine now, and the thought of someone taking you. He turned away, one hand gripping the back of his neck, breathing hard. Celeste crossed to him, touched his shoulder gently. I'm sorry. You're right. I should have stayed inside. You don't understand what you mean to me. Then tell me. Rocco turned, and the look in his eyes was absolutely devastating. You're the first person in 15 years who looked at me and saw something worth saving. Not the boss. Not the legacy. Just me. His hand came up, cupping her face with shaking fingers. I would burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you. And that terrifies me because I don't know where that impulse ends. Rocco. I love you. The confession came out rough, like it had been torn from somewhere deep. I'm obsessed with you. Completely. And I need you to understand that means I will do terrible things to keep you safe. Celeste's heart hammered against her ribs. I love you too, she whispered. His control broke completely. Rocco kissed her like a drowning man finding air, desperate, consuming, anchoring himself to her presence. His hands were everywhere, confirming she was real, whole, his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. No more risks, he said. No more going outside. No more anything that puts you in danger. That's not sustainable. I don't care. Rocco. Promise me. His grip tightened. Please. So she promised. And meant it this time. The Rossi meeting. 3 days later, Rocco left for the meeting with the Rossi family. He didn't want to go. Celeste saw it in the way he kept finding excuses to delay. One more security check, one more call, one more moment standing in the doorway watching her like he was memorizing her face. It's a negotiation, she said gently. You'll be fine. I'm not worried about me. I'm safe here. You made sure of that. He crossed to her, hands framing her face, eyes intense. If anything happens, if you even think something's wrong, you call me immediately. You don't wait. You don't hesitate. I will. Promise. I promise. He kissed her, slow, thorough, achingly gentle. Then he left. And Celeste tried very hard not to think about all the ways a meeting with the family that had just tried to kidnap her could go wrong. Hours later. The call came from Isabella. Celeste. Where's Rocco? At the Rossi meeting. Why? The meeting ended an hour ago. Isabella's voice was tight. He's not answering his phone. Neither is Marco. Ice flooded Celeste's veins. What does that mean? I don't know. But I'm sending Dante to move you to a secondary location. Pack light. Move fast. Isabella. Now Celeste. The line went dead. Celeste stood frozen for 3 seconds, mind racing through terrible possibilities. Then training, or maybe pure survival instinct, kicked in. She grabbed her bag, threw in essentials, was ready when Dante arrived 5 minutes later. His face was grim. We need to go. What happened? Don't know yet. But the Rossi compound went dark 20 minutes ago. No communications in or out. Is Rocco? I don't know. Dante's jaw tightened. But we're not waiting around to find out. They moved through the building fast, using the back exit. A different car waited in the alley, nondescript sedan, engine running. Celeste climbed in. And came face to face with a man she'd hoped to never see again. Ghost from the past. Luca Santoro sat in the back seat, expensive suit, easy smile, eyes that held nothing but calculation. Celeste's blood turned to ice. Hello, Celeste. Dante froze in the driver's seat. Get out of the car. Can't do that. Luca's smile widened. We have business to discuss. Her and me. You have 3 seconds. Luca pulled a gun, casual, practiced. Drive. Or I put a bullet in her leg and we have this conversation anyway. Dante's hands tightened on the wheel. It's okay, Celeste said quietly. Her mind was racing, cataloging exits, weapons, possibilities. I know him. You do. Dante's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. We were engaged. 4 years ago. The words fell like stones. Luca's smile turned sharp. See? Old friends. Now drive. We'll talk while we go. Dante pulled out of the alley, jaw locked, clearly calculating odds. Celeste forced herself to breathe evenly. What do you want, Luca? What I've always wanted. You. Not interested. That's hurtful. Luca shifted, gun still trained on her casually. Especially after I went to all this trouble. The Rossi meeting? That was me. A little distraction to pull your guard dog away. What did you do to Rocco? Nothing permanent. Yet. His eyes glittered. But that depends entirely on you. Understanding crashed over her. This was never about the Rossi family. The Rossis are ambitious idiots who thought they could leverage DeMarco's obsession with you. I simply offered assistance. In exchange for access. To me. To what's mine. Rage ignited in Celeste's chest. I was never yours. You wore my ring. And I gave it back when I found out you were sleeping with my roommate. Luca shrugged. A momentary lapse. For 6 months. Details. He leaned forward slightly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come with me quietly. We're going to disappear, maybe Europe, maybe South America. And DeMarco will spend the rest of his short life wondering what happened to his precious Celeste. He'll find me. Eventually. But by then you'll remember why you loved me first. The delusion in his voice was absolute. Celeste met Dante's eyes in the mirror. He gave the smallest nod. Ready. Luca, she said carefully. You need to understand something. What's that? I didn't love you. I settled for you because I didn't think I deserved better. His expression darkened. But Rocco. She smiled sharp and cold. Rocco showed me what I was worth. And it's so much more than you could ever offer. Luca's gun lifted. Dante slammed the brakes. The car spun, tires screaming. Luca lurched forward. Celeste drove her elbow into his face with every ounce of strength she possessed. The gun went off, deafening in the enclosed space. Then Dante was out of the car, door open, dragging Luca through the opening with brutal efficiency. The fight was brief and vicious. Celeste climbed out on shaking legs, ears ringing from the gunshot. Dante had Luca pinned to the pavement, knee on his back, already zip-tying his wrists. You okay? Dante asked without looking up. Yeah. You. Fine. Call Rocco. Celeste pulled out her phone with trembling hands. It rang twice before he answered. Celeste. The sound of his voice made her knees weak with relief. Are you safe? She asked. Am I? He made a rough sound. I'm fine. The Rossi meeting was a setup. Minor one. We handled it. Where are you? With Dante. We had a problem. What kind of problem? The kind named Luca Santoro. Absolute silence. Then, I'm sending you a location. Get there. No. Don't stop for anything. Rocco. Is he alive? She looked at Luca, bloodied and cursing on the pavement. Yes. Good. Keep him that way. I want to handle this personally. The warehouse. The location Rocco sent was an industrial warehouse on the south side. By the time they arrived, a dozen cars were already there. Rocco stood in the center of the space, surrounded by his people, looking like violence personified. He saw her and went absolutely still. Then he was moving, crossing the distance in seconds, hands framing her face, eyes searching for injuries. Are you hurt? No. Did he touch you? Rocco. Did he touch you? He threatened me. Dante handled it. Rocco's attention shifted to Dante, who stood nearby with Luca restrained. Bonus, Rocco said quietly. Substantial one. You kept her safe. Dante nodded once. Then Rocco turned to Luca and his expression went absolutely cold. You made a mistake. Luca, to his credit, met Rocco's stare with false bravado. She was mine first. She was never yours. Rocco's voice was soft, deadly. She settled for you because she didn't know her worth. Now she does. He moved closer to Luca, crowding into his space with predatory intent. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear. Far away. Permanently. And if I ever hear your name again, if you even think about Celeste, I will end you so slowly you'll beg for death long before it comes. You can't. Rocco grabbed him by the throat, lifting him slightly off the ground with one hand. The tattoos across his knuckles were stark against Luca's skin. I can, Rocco said quietly. I will. Test me. He released Luca, who crumpled, gasping. Get him out of my sight. Two men dragged Luca away. Rocco stood there breathing hard, violence still thrumming through him. Then he turned to Celeste and his expression cracked completely. Come here. She went. His arms came around her, holding tight enough to hurt, face buried in her hair. I can't do this, he said roughly. Every time I leave you something happens. Every single time. I'm okay. You're not okay. Someone put a gun on you. Again. He pulled back, hands framing her face. This has to end. What does? All of it. The threats. The danger. The constant fear that I'm going to lose you. His jaw tightened, decision crystallizing in his eyes. We're ending this. Tonight. Plan. Rocco gathered his inner circle in a back office. Isabella, Dante, Marco, and 3 others Celeste didn't recognize. She sat quietly while they spoke in rapid Italian, watching the pieces move on a chessboard she could barely see. Finally, Rocco switched to English, eyes finding hers. The Rossi family used Luca to create leverage. They want territorial concessions. They think I'll trade for your safety. Will you? No. His voice was flat. Because they'll never stop. Give them an inch, they'll want a mile. This ends with absolute victory or absolute destruction. Rocco. I'm going to offer them a meeting. Peace talks. Neutral ground, public location. His smile was cold. And then I'm going to make very clear what happens when people threaten what's mine. Isabella spoke up, voice sharp. That's war. We're already at war. I'm just choosing the battlefield. The other families won't stand for it. Then they can try to stop me. Rocco leaned back, utterly calm. I'm done playing politics. I'm done managing alliances with people who would use an innocent woman as leverage. This ends. Now. The room went silent. Then Isabella smiled, small, proud. Your father would have done the same thing. My father would have negotiated for 6 months and still lost ground. Rocco's eyes were hard. I'm not my father. No, Isabella agreed softly. You're better. 48 hours. The meeting with the Rossi family was set for Saturday night. Public restaurant. And witnesses everywhere. The perfect place for Rocco to make his statement. Celeste stayed at the penthouse, Rocco's actual home, not the safe house. He refused to let her out of his sight. She slept in his bed, ate meals he cooked personally, existed in the small bubble of safety he'd created through sheer force of will. On Friday night she found him on the balcony, staring out at the city. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Yes, I do. There are other ways. Not for me. He turned, eyes shadowed. I told you once that I'd burn this city to ash before I let anyone hurt you. I meant it. And after, when the Rossi family is handled, there will just be another threat. Then I'll handle that one too. For how long? Forever. The word was absolute. For as long as I'm breathing, Celeste, no one touches you. That's not negotiable. She moved closer, reaching for his hand. The tattoos across his knuckles were familiar now, each name a promise he'd kept. Where do I fit? She asked. In this world you're building? Rocco's thumb brushed over her knuckles. Everywhere. You fit everywhere. Your family loves you. My mother asks about you daily. Dante would take a bullet for you. Marco already did. The other families will respect you or learn what happens when they don't. His grip tightened. You're not some dirty secret, Celeste. You're the best thing in my life. And I'm done pretending otherwise. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Celeste's breath caught. This isn't how I planned to do this, Rocco said roughly. I wanted romance. Candles. Some grand gesture worthy of you. Rocco. But we don't get fairy tales. We get this, standing on a balcony while I prepare for war, asking you to tie yourself to a man who will always have blood on his hands. He opened the box. The ring inside was stunning. Simple band, single diamond, elegant and understated. Marry me, Rocco said. Not because it's smart or safe or politically advantageous. Marry me because I love you so completely that nothing else makes sense. Marry me because when I picture my future, you're in every single moment. Tears burned behind Celeste's eyes. Your world will destroy me. Then I'll destroy my world first. His voice dropped. You're my world now, Celeste. Everything else is just noise. She looked at him. This beautiful, dangerous, broken man who'd built walls around his heart until she'd somehow slipped through. Yes. The word came out steady. Sure. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Rocco's expression cracked with relief so profound it was almost painful to witness. He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her against him, holding tight. I'll keep you safe, he promised against her hair. I'll give you everything. I know. She pulled back to look at him. I know. They stood there on the balcony, newly engaged, while the city spread out beneath them and war waited on the horizon. Saturday night. The restaurant was called Salvatore's. Old money, older reputation, the kind of place where Chicago's elite brokered deals over wine that cost more than Celeste used to make in a month. Rocco arrived with Celeste on his arm. The statement was deliberate. She wore a dress Isabella had provided. Midnight blue, elegant, expensive. The engagement ring caught light with every movement. Her hair was swept up, exposing her neck, her shoulders. She looked like she belonged. Because Rocco had decided she did. The Rossi family was already seated. Patriarch Antonio, his 2 sons, and a lawyer who looked deeply uncomfortable. They stood when Rocco approached. Antonio's eyes went to Celeste, then the ring, then back to Rocco. This is unexpected. Is it? Rocco pulled out a chair for Celeste, waited for her to sit, then settled beside her with casual dominance. You threaten what's mine. I'm showing you exactly what that means. We haven't threatened anyone. You used an intermediary to kidnap my fiancé. Rocco's voice was conversational, pleasant even. That's a threat. We were simply. You were testing boundaries. Rocco leaned back, perfectly relaxed. So let me clarify them. Celeste is family now. DeMarco family. That means she's untouchable. Anyone who forgets that lesson will learn it very, very painfully. Antonio's jaw tightened. That's quite a statement. It's a promise. Silence fell across the table. Then Antonio smiled. Thin, calculated. You've changed, Rocco. Your father would have negotiated. My father's dead. Rocco's eyes were cold. I'm not interested in the games he played. I'm interested in making very clear that some lines once crossed have permanent consequences. Is that a threat? It's the new reality. Antonio studied him for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to Celeste. You must be very special. To inspire such devotion. She is, Rocco answered before Celeste could speak. Which is why this conversation is simple. You withdraw any and all interests in DeMarco territory. You return all assets acquired through your association with Luca Santoro. And you never speak her name again. And in return? You continue breathing. The words hung in the air, absolute and undeniable. Antonio leaned back, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Your father would have offered concessions. I'm not my father. No, Antonio agreed. You're considerably more dangerous. He stood, his sons following suit. We accept your terms. For now. Forever, Rocco corrected quietly. You accept them forever. Because the next time we have this conversation, it won't be in a restaurant. Antonio nodded once, then left. The moment they were gone, Celeste released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. That was necessary. Rocco turned to her, expression softening microscopically. How are you? Honestly, terrified. Good. Fear keeps you careful. His hand found hers under the table. But you don't have to be afraid of them. Not anymore. Just of you. His mouth curved. I'm only dangerous to people who threaten what I love. They left the restaurant shortly after, bodyguards forming a subtle perimeter. The night air was cold and sharp, promising snow. Rocco pulled her close as they walked to the car. One more thing, he said quietly. What? I want to get married. This week if possible. Celeste stopped walking. This week. I've wasted enough time. His eyes were intense. I want you legally, permanently, irrevocably mine. I want the world to know it. I want. He stopped, jaw working. I want to stop being afraid I'll lose you. The vulnerability in his voice undid her. Okay. Okay. This week. Small ceremony. Just us and your mother. Rocco kissed her, right there on the sidewalk in front of bodyguards and passing strangers, claiming her publicly the way he'd claimed her privately weeks ago. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he said. More than I thought I could love anything. I love you too. Even though I'm. Because you're you. She smiled. Dangerous, obsessive, completely overwhelming you. His laugh was soft, surprised. Come on, he said. Let's go home. The wedding. They married on Thursday in Isabella's private garden. Snow fell softly, making everything look like a fairy tale. Celeste wore cream silk. Simple, elegant, nothing like the elaborate gown she'd once imagined. This was better. Rocco stood under an arch of winter branches, wearing black, ink visible at his collar and wrists. He looked at her like she was the only thing in existence. Isabella cried quietly. The ceremony was brief. Traditional vows spoken with complete sincerity. Rings exchanged, his a simple band that matched the tattoos, a permanent mark to go with permanent marks. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Rocco cupped her face with infinite gentleness. "Wine," he whispered. "Yours," she confirmed. The kiss was soft, reverent, absolutely perfect. They were married. 2 months later. Celeste woke to morning sickness and certainty. She took 3 tests. All positive. Pregnant. Terror and joy warred in her chest. They'd been careful, mostly. But clearly not careful enough. She found Rocco in his office, working through paperwork with the focused intensity he brought to everything. He looked up when she entered, smiled, softening his features. "Morning. We need to talk." His expression shifted immediately. "What's wrong?" "I'm pregnant." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Rocco stood slowly, papers forgotten, eyes locked on hers. "You're pregnant. About 8 weeks, I think." He crossed to her in 3 strides, hands framing her face, eyes searching hers with devastating intensity. "How do you feel?" "Terrified. Happy. Confused." She laughed shakily. "I don't know. Do you want?" He stopped, jaw working. "What do you want?" The question held everything: permission, support, unconditional acceptance. Celeste placed her hand over her still flat stomach. "I want this. If you do." Rocco's control shattered completely. He dropped to his knees in front of her, hands spanning her waist, forehead pressed to her stomach. "Wine," he whispered. "Both of you. Wine." Tears spilled down Celeste's cheeks. "Ours," she corrected gently. His arms came around her, holding tight, and she felt him trembling. "I'm going to be a father." "Yes. I'm going to mess this up." "Probably." She ran her fingers through his hair. "But you'll love them completely. Just like you love me." Rocco pulled back, eyes red-rimmed, expression raw. "I'll protect them. Both of you. Nothing will ever hurt our family." "I know." He stood, kissed her softly, then pulled her against him. "We're going to need a bigger place." "Probably." "And security. More security." "Rocco." "And a nursery." "Isabella will have opinions. She'll want to help." He was spiraling, planning already 3 steps ahead. Celeste pulled back, hands on his chest. "One thing at a time." He breathed. Nodded. "One thing at a time," he repeated. Then he kissed her again, slow, deep, anchoring them both to this moment. "I love you," he said against her mouth. "I love you too." 6 months later. Isabella Rose DeMarco was born on a Tuesday morning, screaming her displeasure at the world with impressive volume. Rocco cried. Actually cried, standing in the delivery room holding his daughter for the first time, tears streaming down his face while Celeste watched with exhausted joy. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She's ours," Celeste corrected. He looked at her then, his wife, the mother of his child, the woman who'd changed everything. "Best decision I ever made," he said quietly. "Loving you." "Second best," Celeste countered. "First was letting me love you back." Isabella wailed, demanding attention. They both laughed. 1 year later. The anniversary party was Isabella Sr.'s idea. 1 year married, she'd insisted. That deserves celebration. So the estate was transformed. Lights strung through trees, tables laden with food, family and trusted associates filling the space with warmth and laughter. Celeste stood on the terrace watching Rocco with their daughter. He held Isabella, now 10 months old and determined to walk, with practiced ease, speaking to her in soft Italian while she grabbed at his collar. The tattoos across his knuckles included a new name now. Isabella. Permanent. Undeniable. You did this, a voice said. Celeste turned. Antonio Rossi stood nearby, wineglass in hand, expression thoughtful. Did what? Made him human again. Antonio gestured to Rocco. Before you he was carved from ice. Brilliant, dangerous, utterly controlled. Now look at him. Rocco was laughing as Isabella pulled his hair, completely unbothered by the loss of dignity. He was always human, Celeste said quietly. He just needed permission to show it. Perhaps. Antonio studied her. Your intervention that night, defending Isabella Sr., changed the power structure of this entire city. You know that. I was just doing what was right. Exactly. He smiled. You didn't calculate. Didn't weigh consequences. You just acted. That kind of integrity is rare in our world. He raised his glass in a small toast. To you, Mrs. DeMarco. The waitress who became a queen. He walked away before Celeste could respond. Rocco appeared at her side moments later, Isabella in his arms. What did Antonio want? To remind me I changed your life. You did. Rocco shifted their daughter to one arm, the other going around Celeste's waist. Completely. Irrevocably. Any regrets? None. He kissed her temple. You. Celeste looked at her family, this beautiful, dangerous, impossible life she'd built from one moment of courage. Not one. 3 years later. The restaurant was called Celeste's. Small, intimate, tucked in the neighborhood where she'd worked at Lucia's. The kind of place where regulars knew each other's names and the food tasted like home. Celeste ran it with the same quiet efficiency she'd brought to waitressing. Observing, adapting, making people feel seen. Rocco had offered to fund something bigger. She'd refused. This was hers. Small but real. He understood that. Thursday nights were family dinner. Isabella, now 4, sat in a booster seat, arguing with her grandmother about vegetables. Rocco lounged beside Celeste, one hand resting on her thigh beneath the table. Comfortable. Easy. Mama, Isabella asked suddenly. Tell the story. Which story, baby? How you met Papa. Celeste and Rocco exchanged glances. They told her an edited version. The intervention, the connection, the choice to be brave. Once upon a time, Celeste began, there was a woman who saw something wrong and decided to do something about it. Even though she was scared? Isabella asked. Especially because she was scared. And Papa? Rocco leaned forward, eyes soft on his daughter. Papa saw someone brave enough to stand up for what was right. And he decided right then that he'd spend the rest of his life making sure she never regretted it. Isabella considered this seriously. Did she regret it? Celeste looked at Rocco, her husband, her partner, the man who'd torn down his own walls to let her in. Not for a single second. His hand tightened on her thigh. Later that night, after Isabella was asleep and Isabella Sr. had gone home, they stood on their balcony overlooking the city. Rocco's arms came around her from behind, chin resting on her shoulder. Happy? He asked quietly. Completely. Even with the chaos? Especially with the chaos. He turned her to face him, hands framing her face the way they had that first night. I love you, he said. More every day. I love you too. They kissed, slow, deep, familiar. Perfect. When they finally pulled apart, Rocco's expression was serious. I need to tell you something. What? I'm thinking of stepping back. From the family business. Not completely, but more. Let the next generation take over while I focus on this. Our family. Celeste's breath caught. Really? Really? His thumb brushed her cheek. You showed me there's more to life than legacy and control. I want to actually live, Celeste. With you. While we still can. Tears burned behind her eyes. Okay. Okay. Yes. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. His kiss was pure gratitude. They stood there on the balcony, the city spread beneath them. Two people from completely different worlds who'd found each other in the chaos. And built something permanent. Something real. Something worth every risk they'd taken to get here. The end. A dark romance about power, sacrifice, and the courage to love beyond boundaries.